Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to distill the core steps of a spiritual journey. It's a path that can take us from seeing the illusions of the world all the way to, well, to the potential of enlightenment itself.
So, here's the path we're going to walk together. We'll start with how you can even spot spiritual truth in the first place. Then we'll get into confronting the ego, climbing that ladder of consciousness, shifting our awareness, and finally, we'll explore the ultimate act of surrender.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. The very first step on this journey is a big one. It's about learning to tell the difference between what's genuinely mystical and what's just mysterious. Now, they might sound the same, but trust me, they are worlds apart.
And this distinction is absolutely key. See, the mysterious, it's usually veiled, right? It's cloaked in secrets. And pretty often, there's a profit motive. It's that whole, I'll tell you the secret of the universe for a small fee. But true mystical knowledge, it's the complete opposite. It's transparent, it's wide open, and it's always, always freely given. It has nothing to hide and asks for nothing in return.
This, right here, really hits the nail on the head. It gets to the core of what genuine spiritual guidance is all about: liberation. A true teacher wants to set you free, to empower you. A charlatan, on the other hand, tries to bind you to their system, to own you, to control you. It's that simple.
So, this leads us right to our next step. Once we start to get good at spotting the falsehoods out there in the world, the journey turns inward. And that's where we have to face the main obstacle on this path: the ego and all of its sneaky little traps.
You know, one of the biggest traps has this name: religionism. And it's not just about religion. It's what happens when any ism, could be environmentalism, liberalism, you name it, gets put on a pedestal. The belief system itself becomes a god, placed higher than truth. And when that happens, it just becomes a rigid position, you get some narcissistic gain from it, and boom, it's a crusade.
You see, the ego survives, it thrives on the juice it gets from these patterns. It's like an addiction. The ego absolutely loves the feeling of being right. It gets this weird, twisted satisfaction from winning the competition for who's the biggest victim. But its favorite drug of all? That prize of feeling morally superior to everyone else.
And this is a crucial point. This drive is one of the most powerful forces in the world. I mean, just look at the headlines, right? The political debates, the arguments online. It's all a massive struggle for moral righteousness. This desire is often way more powerful than the desire for money or oil, and it is a huge, huge roadblock to any real spiritual progress.
I mean, think about that. This drive is so powerful that people will literally sacrifice everything for it: their integrity, the truth, even their own souls, all for that sweet, sweet feeling of being right.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem, the traps. Now let's pivot to the solution. If the ego is constantly trying to pull us down, how do we actually break free? How do we start to raise our level of consciousness? You know, a really powerful way to think about this is to imagine your consciousness is like an airplane. As you climb higher and higher, the world below, the very same world, looks completely different. Your whole perspective on reality is transformed by your altitude. So this journey upward, it takes you through these different levels of consciousness. For instance, you have to move beyond the arrogance and the brittleness of pride. And when you do that, you find the integrity of courage. And then from courage, you can ascend even higher, to the expansive, beautiful energy of love and forgiveness. And let's be really clear about something. Reaching the level of courage isn't about being passive or being a doormat. It is the exact opposite. It's about developing this inner strength to stand for truth, to align with what's right, even if it means you have to face your deepest fears head-on. That, right there, is how you transcend fear.
And this brings us to a really crucial pivot point. The work starts to shift from wrestling with ideas out there in the world to a really profound, deep, internal shift in our own awareness.
You see, the main question you ask yourself actually changes. For centuries, people have asked, "Who am I?" But that question often just leads you to another label, another identity for your ego to grab onto. A much more powerful question is, what am I? That question doesn't point to a person, it points to the very nature of awareness itself. And the answer to what am I is that you are the witness. You're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings or your experiences. You are the silent, subjective awareness that is simply observing all of it. You are the field of consciousness from which all of life arises.
So it's a huge shift, right? We go from identifying as the thinker, that little me inside our heads that thinks it's doing all the thinking, to realizing we're the silent witness. We're the awareness that just observes the whole show without getting tangled up in it. And the big realization is there is no thinker behind the thought.
And this brings us to the climax of the entire journey. This is the final act, the culmination of all that deep internal work, the final surrender.
It all starts with something that's been called the final run, and this is a point of just overwhelming commitment. It's where your spiritual practice isn't something you do for an hour a day, it becomes continuous. Every single thought, every sensation, every feeling, you surrender it to the divine the split second it arises.
And these surrenders, they get deeper and deeper. It starts with letting go of maybe the most fundamental attachment we all have, the very desire for our own existence.
Next, a massive temptation comes up. Sometimes it's described as luciferic. It's this inner knowing that all power in the universe could be yours for the taking, with no accountability. It's the ultimate test of pride, and it too has to be seen for what it is and refused.
So, when everything else is gone, all the attachments, all the desires, all the temptations, there's only one thing left to surrender, and that's the very core, the essence of life itself, and that too must be given over.
Now you might be thinking, how is that even possible? How could anyone do that? Well, it's possible because of a deep, certain, unshakable knowing of this simple truth. And it's that knowingness that lets a person walk through what looks like a final door of pure agony and terror, only to find on the other side an ecstasy that is completely beyond definition.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. In our crazy, noisy world with all the thoughts and distractions, can you become aware of the infinite silence that is always there right underneath it all? Because it's in that ever-present silence, what some call the voice of God, that potentiality becomes reality.